Let's begin! Wolfenstein Cyberpilot is set 20 years after the events of the new Colossus, but before Young Blood. You play as a hacker working for the French resistance. It's your job to hack into 3 different types of mechs and turn them against their evil creators. The first mech is in a similar shape as a dog. It has a ram attack, which really does propel you forwards quite quickly, and it does feel very powerful, thanks to it being able to send cars flying. It's quite fun lining up the perfect shot to make a vehicle land on your enemies. It also has a shockwave ability that can be activated by pressing a button. This stuns enemies and can send smaller enemies backwards. It's quite powerful, but the recharge time it takes to be used again does even things out, and the main weapon for this mech is a flamethrower. It sets enemies and objects alight, and the lighting here really is amazing. In fact, this whole game has some of the best lighting I've seen in a PSVR game for quite some time, and the visuals are very crisp and sharp. The next mech is a flying type, which is used for stealth. The main weapon is a shock of electricity, but it doesn't stun enemies, instead it makes them explode in a gory fashion. It's best to use this when you're behind an enemy, as the mech doesn't have that much health at all, so if you're spotted, you will most likely die. You can turn invisible for a short amount of time though, which you will absolutely need to do, considering some of the enemy's placements in the world. This ability also needs recharging, so you really do have to evaluate the threats in each area, and only use it when it's absolutely necessary. The final ability this mech has is a hacking tool. To initiate a hack, you must first line up the robotic arm with a circular slot that is found on computers and terminals. When it has been inserted, a minigame starts where you must rotate the move controller until it vibrates. It works well, but it does get slightly overused, especially as you must find the sweet spot 3 times on a single terminal to hack it. The final mech you are in control of is the biggest one out of all of them. It has a machine gun, missile launcher, and a shield that can be activated. The guns can overheat, and the shield does need recharging. You will need to use the shield quite a bit, as it can be a little bit of a lengthy process to get behind cover from enemy fire. It really is all about hitting your shield button just before certain enemies attack, especially when there are a lot of enemies heading your way at once. Infantry can be taken out quite easily, whilst mechanical dogs and the larger mech types do need to be shot quite a few times before they will be destroyed. Some shoot at you, some chuck grenades, and some fire missiles at you. You will absolutely take damage from time to time, as the actual level layouts are very linear and often don't have decent cover for you to hide behind. Luckily, each of the mechs can be repaired whenever you want. You do this by inserting your joystick into a slot to your right. Upon doing so, smaller robots come to your rescue and start to fill your health up again. It's pretty cool seeing them get to work on your mech outside. The game includes 4 missions to beat. 3 of them have you in control of one mech each time, and the other mission has you in control of each of them at different times. The difficulty here can feel a little bit unbalanced with the mechs though, due to what attacks and defense abilities each one has, and what order the mechs actually appear in. If you go into this expecting to be able to obliterate everything simply because you're inside a mech, you're going to be disappointed. You do have to dance between attacking and shielding. The game isn't a fully action-based experience though, as you will be inside your headquarters before you begin each mission. Here you sit in a chair, which is basically an elevator, as it can travel to 4 different floors. This place basically consists of some very minor puzzle solving, as when you first acquire a new mech, you must repair it before it can be taken out in a new mission. You can rotate for mechs, bring them closer to you, and can interact with them by using some tools. Once again, interaction here is great, although in the grand scheme of things, this part of the game can feel like filler. You do spend quite a bit of time here, and even after you have repaired the mech, you obviously must learn how to control it, which starts a brief training simulation. It's not a terrible part of the game, but I can certainly see some people not liking it that much, as Wolfenstein games are normally very action focused. The game can be played with a DualShock controller or 2 Move controllers. I highly suggest you play with the moves if you can, because controlling the mech feels great with them. It's a much more immersive experience. The actual visuals make it very immersive too. There is a whole lot of detail seen here, especially in the levels that take place in the streets. Although the levels are quite small, the actual city doesn't feel like it, thanks to buildings towering above you and more of them being seen in the background. Sure, it is a very linear experience, but you do feel like you're right in the middle of a massive city. It took me just under 2 hours to beat the game, and out of curiosity, I added up the time that I was actually in the proper missions, which was only about an hour, so half of the game is made up of the headquarters place. Unfortunately, there isn't a chapter select screen upon completion, which is very odd for a game that has you control different mechs in most of its stages. It is a shame, as you can't quickly replay your favourite levels. There is 3 different difficulties for you to tackle, and you will need to do so too if you are after the game's platinum. A few will obviously unlock during your first playthrough, but there is some interesting ones here too, such as destroying certain objects in each of the levels. Although the actual game does not contain any collectibles to find, these trophies do kind of give the same search and challenge. There is also some trophies for killing a number of enemies with a certain mech weapon, but these will likely naturally unlock. There's even some that actually change the way you approach a level, like the one where you're not allowed to use the dog mech's flamethrower. Ones like these are always very welcomed, as they drastically change up the gameplay. The hardest ones here are obviously for free tied to different difficulties, but overall it is a very doable platinum. I really did enjoy this game. It had some decent action, and I was amazed with the visuals throughout, especially the explosions and lighting. The detail in the world is incredible too. It certainly makes the game stand out from the majority of PSVR titles. Just like the Doom PSVR game, this does feel like a bite-sized version of a game that we're so used to playing, even though this Wolfenstein game is centered around being inside a mech. The main thing I didn't like about it is that too much of the game takes place in the headquarters. It's not too bad being there on your first playthrough, as different things happen each time you revisit, but considering its length, many players will likely want to play through the game again on harder difficulties, so the headquarters sections are going to drag on too much. Overall, this is an extremely polished game, and although it's not very long, I do think the price is just about right for the amount of work gone into it. If it was full price, I would have said completely avoid it. A couple of things do let it down, one being the not so epic ending. It does feel a little rushed, but rarely do we see so much attention to detail in a VR game. Once again, it's an enjoyable bite-sized virtual outing set in a beloved franchise. If you want to see what I thought of the game as I played through it, there is a playthrough on screen right now. As always, if you found this review helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more PSVR content.